All right, as you know, Lena, we are going to take our deep dive now, and our series is Let's Talk About Mental Health. Can you share with us a time that you had a mental health struggle, or that a loved one had a mental health struggle to where, you were right there, boots on the ground?
Sure. So I'll speak from my own experience, and what comes to mind is the year of 2023, especially like the first couple of months of 2023. Um, and I'll give you a little bit of context just to,
Sure.
backtrack. So a couple of months before that, in the fall of 2022, I was diagnosed with hyperthyroid. I had a lot of symptoms, and that's what caused me to get myself checked. I was starting to lose my hair. Um, so many different symptoms, insomnia, night sweats. I lost so much weight out of nowhere, yet I was eating. I was always hungry. Just all these crazy symptoms, and hence the little headscarf I'm wearing because
So cute. You rock it big time, let me tell you.
thank you. When I was losing the hair, I just decided let's just shave my head, and I shaved my head for about like a year and a half, like almost every single week for a year and a half because I ended up liking it, but now it's growing out, which I'm letting it grow out now. Um,
Wow.
but anyway, so the thyroid thing was kind of it was kind of getting under control. Like I was doing okay, right? I was doing all right with it for a few months. Well, come 2023, I don't want to get too much of the details of the specifics, but had kind of a big argument, fight, whatever you want to call it, with a family member. Um, it just really, it was such a shock, and it was just so difficult. And I noticed within like the first couple of days after that argument, I started having some symptoms again from my thyroid that were already kind of going under control.
Wow.
And I was so emotional, and I kind of like, and other things too. So
Right.
during this like emotional turmoil from this fight with a family member, it ended up unearthing so many emotions that I think that I had like suppressed and repressed for like 10 years or more.
Mm.
It unearthed so much that I was not prepared for. And I felt like a mess at the time. I was, I was just such a mess. I felt like a little girl too, like a little sad child also. Like I was just so emotional. And yeah, it was a really difficult time. And then within, like I said, the first couple of months of 2023, it was just kind of one thing after another. After that argument with that family member, like a month later, another family member came to visit me. Well, they came to visit here in Mexico where I'm temporarily living, and it
Mhm.
was someone that I hadn't talked to in a long time, kind of a toxic family member. And they arrived unexpectedly a few days before my 30th birthday, and they waited until my 30th birthday to like surprise me, but kind of like in a messed up way.
Hmm.
And that really messed me up. And then the next month,
Oh, gee,
the
gee.
next month, and I'm almost done, but the next month I went to go visit some other family members. And again, I'm not being very specific because I don't
No,
really
it's
want to,
okay. It's not necessary. You're telling it just right.
And so the next month, so the fight with one in January, then the unexpected visit from the toxic one on my birthday and my 30th birthday in February, and then visiting my other family in March. So it was
Oh my
January,
gosh.
February, March, and visiting this other family in March, it was really hard. I saw things that I didn't think I would want to see. Also, some things from childhood came up. It was just I was just I was a mess by the end of I guess quarter one. And
Quarter one was not good to you.
yeah, it was really hard on me emotionally.
Well, that sounds like a lot, kind of like too much, really.
Yeah, all at once it was.
Okay, so you're having all this the hyperthyroidism, and you're starting to get that under control. And then with, over the 3 months, you've got these difficult visits with three different family members. And now your symptoms are they're coming back. And what's the expression that the body keeps score? Right?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great book, by the way. Bessel Vander Kolk or something wrote that book.
Oh, I have no idea who wrote that book, but I
It's a good
just,
one.
I think that gosh, there's something to that. It's more than just a great quote. There's truth behind it. So how did you how did you navigate that? How did you start to climb out then of kind of getting sucked back into some of this stuff?
Yeah, so I'm so grateful that you brought that up, and I don't think it's a coincidence.
No, no,
The fact that you brought that up, yes. So when I was going through all this emotional turmoil, and then my symptoms were flaring up, I kind of luckily I was able to kind of take a step back and think, this is interesting. How interesting is it that all of a sudden all of these like difficult emotions, like I'm spiraling in all these emotions, things from my past, the things in the present, and these physical symptoms are flaring up now. And I made the realization that I was like, I think that there is a lot more, there's so much to be said about how like our emotions, our mental health, our well, like our state of being can affect our body.
mm,
And so I guess you would say like kind of my healing journey kind of started there. I kind of started it from this perspective of, well, I don't want to be going through all this physical stuff anymore. This is
right,
uncomfortable. And I seeing how the emotional turmoil is affecting it. So I need to figure out where to go from here. And one of my best friends, I told her this realization. She was like, "Hey, I want to share some information with you, blah, blah, blah." And then she, she also shared with me like programs for women who have um, chronic illness or autoimmune illnesses, but per, I guess approaching it from the perspective of like the nervous system. Let's work
mm,
on, emotional regulation because there's a huge and people will see when they read these books, like The Body Keeps the Score. Um, there's so many other books out there, When the Body Says No, and multitudes of others that show that there's a huge connection between like the state of our nervous system and how it manifests in the physical body, like in organs and illnesses. And so I just got really into that. And so I ended up joining a program with a bunch of other women that have the same or other chronic illnesses, and coached by other women who had stuff like this before
right.
and who have come out on the other side. But it takes a lot of work, and I'm still working on myself
Yeah,
when it comes to, nervous system regulation and emotional regulation as well. And I can already see the difference in so many aspects of my life, not just my physical body. So
right. Oh, that's so good. What would you say is one of the tips, strategies, or tools that you could share with us today?
I would say, like, as far as a tip goes, is to not look at the emotions that we're experiencing as something bad or that needs to be like ignored or denied, but to look at it as like, okay, my body is telling me something, it's giving me, a signal. And instead of just ignoring it, maybe let me just sit with this and see what it needs. What is it telling me? Um, just, I guess, just to not be afraid of your feelings,
Mm,
and to learn how to feel them and release them in like a healthy, effective manner. And there's so many
mm,
different ways people can do that. One of which is like, and I know people say it's like a buzzword right now, but um, somatic exercises, uh, where you basically just kind of get in tune with your body and you kind of like sense like, what is it feeling? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling worried? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling depressed? And you kind of sensing like, what does it feel like in different areas of your body, and doing a movement that can kind of help you um, feel and then like release the emotion
Mm,
instead of bottling it up and hiding it away, which is what I
right,
did for so many years.
right. Yeah, that is very that is very wise. That is very wise because I think we do get the message early on, maybe especially as women, that we're sort of emotional creatures and that I mean, we are, but there's something not quite okay with that, or the magnitude at which we might feel things or express things is somehow shameful or should be, reeled back somehow. When I like what you're saying about, being aware of it and sitting in it and not trying to get rid of it, but to go
Mhm.
through it and process it and pay attention to it for, for your body's sake, for your emotions' sake, for all of that. That's very, very good. Love that. Really love that.
I'm glad. I'm glad. And
Oh,
hopefully someone listening will get some benefit from that too.
yes, yes. And so one of my questions that I pre-sent you was, did any good come from that? And I can see that clearly, yes. What you're sharing with us here is that you have this newfound deeper appreciation and awareness of you.
Absolutely. No, so much good came out of that really difficult time. And it kind of goes back to my motto I shared earlier about how our challenges are often our biggest blessings. You know, I I like I said, I reached out, I got help from coaches, I met other women who, gone through maybe similar experiences. I ended up that was actually the reason I started my podcast, was because I thought to myself, I know there are other people further along in their healing journeys, and I want to learn from them. I want to know what they went through in the past, and I want to know where they are now and like what they did to get them to this more empowered, healthier place. And so that's actually why I started my show, because I wanted to hear stories, like real people telling their real stories. And so good has come out of that in that way as well. And yeah, like I said, my health is improving. Um, I would say, and it's not perfect. Healing is a journey, as cliche as that might sound.
No.
There's no like beginning, or like there's no necessarily like end to it. And there's times that you have the tools at at your disposal, like you're doing really good, and there's other times that it can kind of go up and down, and
Yeah,
it does.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, a lot of good has come out of it, I would say. um I mean, I'm just so grateful, with the tools that I've learned, from the books that I've read, the coaching that I've received, also, like I said, with my faith. I'm just very grateful.
Right. Yes, you've found not just tips and strategies, but a way to live, a way to
Mhm.
show up in your own life that is helpful, healthy, healing. I didn't mean to do that.
That's okay.
Oh, but that's so funny. Yes, all those good words. And then, you have a new understanding of your life and how to you know how to navigate it, how to live it as your best self. And I like that you are explaining that your ongoing growing, ongoing evolving, ongoing process, and that really it's not going to be done, or you're not going to be done until that final breath. That's how I feel. I mean, I want to keep expanding into the fullness of who I am so that I can show up better for others. I mean, for me, it's not just about me. If I'm a better me, then I can be helpful and serve better in an outward sense. So, here and then out is kind of how I feel about, the work I do for myself, on myself, all of that. Um, what are there any other? I love the tip that you shared. How do you think we can remove the stigma? I mean, I think we're better than we were, but I mean, and you're a young person, but I don't know if your generation is sort of like the first generation to embrace it better in a more healthy way. I mean, I think like maybe my grandparents' generation was like, ooh, we don't talk about that, or there was like some embarrassment or shame or something if you
Yeah.
have a family member that couldn't quite get
Yeah.
it together. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I from, based on, just what you hear from people. Yeah, I think you're right that for so many years people just wanted to keep things hush hush, talk about things. Um, if somebody's having an issue, like unfortunately, they've had some really drastic protocols for people. My one of my family members, she unfortunately was and you can take this out if you don't want to include it, but
Oh, it's fine.
I don't mind if you do, but she had gone through, I want to say, like shock treatments
Yes.
back. Yeah, and I don't remember exactly what years that happened to her. I think it was in the I want to say it was in the 60s maybe.
Okay.
Um but yeah, I mean, how how sad. But you're right. I think that we have come a long way. And so I'm part of the millennial generation. Um, and I do think that like the people in my age group has been more open to talking about mental health struggles, definitely. Um, and I would say, how do we end the stigma? I mean, the main thing that probably everyone is going to say is by talking about it more,
Mhm.
by sharing our stories, even if it's not even if it's not necessarily like us right here on the podcast, but even people could share their stories like anonymously. There's a lot of different outlets that people are hosting, I guess you could say, where they say, hey, share your anonymous story about if you went through something like this, right? Some sort of abuse or addiction or what have you. And people can share their stories that way. Um, yeah, it's I guess it's just being brave enough to talk about it, and not just be brave enough to talk about it, but if you see or hear other people shaming someone else,
Ooh.
be brave enough to kind of jump into that conversation and say, hey, this is something that's actually important to talk about. And if you are trying to um if you're trying to stop people from having these conversations, you're doing more harm than good, not just to that person, but maybe to yourself, to society in general. Um, I,
Right.
I I believe that the I believe that poor mental health is the root of all all pain and suffering in the world,
Wow.
because if you really look at it, right? If you look at like criminals, people who abuse others, let's say, um, is I liked, maybe it's the idealistic person in me, right? But
I love that you're idealistic though. I love it.
the idealist in me would like to think that we could prevent future criminals, future abusers, if mental health was a priority in all over the
Mm.
world. You could prevent addicts, um, all sorts of things if mental health was taken seriously. And I say that just because I look at people in my own family, some who were abused and some who were the abusers.
Mm.
Um, who, like, let's say I was never close to them because I would never be, or they wouldn't want to be near me because I would have. I would have sent them to jail or something. But anyway, um, I look at them and I think, wow, you probably wouldn't be here, or you probably wouldn't have done XYZ if that hadn't have happened to you in the past. Or if, or
Right,
even if it did happen to you in the past, but if you'd gotten help like over here, maybe you never would
right,
have gotten to that point, right? So
right.
that's my soapbox that I will
No,
get off of.
I love that. Well, I don't love that that's a reality. I love that you have concluded that and that you see that. And I have often thought that if you could trace back sort of a lot of the ills and the evil in the world, that you would, for at least, you've got this theory. Mine would be like maybe one step before that, and that would be if a person was not properly loved, then all these other things are going to take root. Or sometimes people are born with chemical situations, and then
Sure,
that would be the exception to that rule. But
sure, sure.
when you look at how children are loved, how important that foundation is for growing up into a healthy individual. So I obviously one of the things that can happen if you're not loved properly is that now you're gonna have challenges with your mental health amongst all kinds of other potential things. Wow. Well, this has been
I
a
agree.
fabulous conversation. Just love this
Me
conversation. Yeah,
too. Me too.
I
Thank
know
you.
we were so, looking forward to connecting with one another in real time and all
Yeah.
that. Okay, so we've got the streets of our lives. Okay.
Yes. And
Okay.
just like a little disclaimer, so it's a passion project right now. So it is this podcast has moved along at a at a tortoise pace. Little by little, I work on it. But actually this year, 2025, I'm focusing on being more consistent and with putting episodes out there a little more frequently because I realize how important it is, the topics that I bring up to share with others so that way they can resonate and they can feel like they have someone to connect to.
That, yes, I would say yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. Do that. Do that. And where can people find you? I mean, obviously the podcast. Is there anywhere
Sure.
else you want to be found?
So I am trying to be more active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I find that it's for my mental health, I think that that is the safest place for me to be on because I'm on Instagram, but I often will go like I won't be on there for like weeks or months at a time because it can sometimes be a little too much
Right.
um consumption, just scrolling and scrolling. So
Right.
I would say LinkedIn would probably be best.
Okay. And
Or
that
I'll
would
share
be
with you my email as well.
okay. And that would be Lina Gomez. Are you on LinkedIn under Lina Gomez?
Actually, it's gonna be, oh, look, I have it right here. So it's gonna be linkedin.com/in/Lina dash la dash Rue. Lina La Rue is that's kind of like my moniker for like my podcast. It's my first
Okay.
name and my middle name. Um
Okay. So it's LinkedIn, Lina dash law dash Rue. Is that what we're?
Yeah, that's what it shows up on the
Okay. Okay.
URL.
Okay.
But they should see my picture there.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and that what a cool middle name to have.
Do you know what it means?
The street.
Did I tell you that? I
No,
can't
I mean
remember.
French. It's yes.
You knew that already.
Well, I mean I've been doing Duolingo French for a couple years now, so we did cover street a
That
while
is
back.
that is so funny because people don't know. They're like, La Rue, what is that? I'm like, well, it's French and it means the street. And that's actually where I got the name for my podcast.
I
I
love it.
wanted to add like I wanted to add that in there. And
No, I think oh,
who would
that's
name their kid the street? I don't know.
but it sounds so fun. I mean, just about everything in French sounds really fun. It
Yeah.
sounds pretty and
Yeah.
interesting and all that good
Exactly.
stuff.
Anyway,
Well, thank you so much, Lena. I'm grateful for this time, and we've have some places to find you, and we'll look forward to some future podcasts from you. And what a wondrous time this has been having you as
thank
a
you.
my guest.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you.